Have you ever wondered why you can't stay motivated, why you start something but don't finish it? And although you call yourself lazy, if we're being honest, deep down inside, you feel like there's got to be more to it. It can't just be laziness. Well, the one thing most of us really don't take the time to look at is the fact that trauma plays a big part in lack of motivation, even when you're not in a traumatic state, even when you're in a safe space. So today, I'm going to break down how trauma hijacks our motivation at times, and I'll give you practical tools that you can start to implement even today to start moving towards your goals in a way that's actually authentic to you and not fake it till you make it type of deal. So if you're interested in that or other video topics like this, make sure to subscribe, like, and leave me a comment down below. So let's talk about how experiencing trauma at any age rewires our brain. So your amygdala, which think about it like the fear center of the brain, that gets activated and even becomes hyperactive after trauma. And what it does is it continuously scans for potential threats, potential dangers in your environment. So imagine being a full-grown adult, not being in those traumatic situations that you might have experienced in the past, and still living most of your days with your amygdala highly hyperactive, and you don't even know it. You kind of sense it, but you don't even know it. And what's happening is you're just trying to survive today. Let's say you're in active trauma or in toxic situations, then your brain is also doing the same. Your amygdala is working overtime, which means that other parts of your brain don't have time to be worked on. I want you to think about it like that. So if you're thinking about, for instance, the prefrontal cortex, this actually helps you to plan for the future. This helps you set goals. This is where motivation is also impacted heavily. And so when your amygdala is working overtime, those parts of your prefrontal cortex are sidelined, really. It's not that they're not there, they're just not actively working as much as your amygdala. Now that we've got the brain covered, let's talk about what else is working against us in that moment. And it's our stress hormones. Chronic trauma exposure, it keeps your hormones such as cortisol, such as adrenaline, it keeps them high. But these specific hormones, they're not meant to be at a high level for long periods of time. They're meant to be at a high level for short periods of time when you need it. Think about when you're walking down the street and maybe you're not paying attention, and then all of a sudden you feel a car coming. And you're like, oh, that's the adrenaline picking up. It's important for you to have that in short bursts because it's going to protect you. It's going to kick in and let you know, hey, get a move on. Something's not right. Hey, protect yourself. Hey, you're about to be in danger. But then as you continue walking down the street after a near miss, you're like, okay, that was scary. And then eventually the adrenaline reduces. That's what it's supposed to be for. Not for every day always being high on cortisol, high on adrenaline, and living your life that way. It's not what it was meant to do. Specifically, what we see in research with trauma survivors is that these hormones, the levels, they remain high throughout their life. Then you have to ask yourself, if that part of my body is not supposed to work like that, but it is because of trauma, well, what are the repercussions? What happens? Well, you have brain fog, fatigue, low moods, emotional swings, just to name a few. Let's go back to the brain and talk about a different part of our brain that also gets impacted by trauma and traumatic experiences. Well, trauma, it damages a part of our brain called the hippocampus. And the hippocampus is responsible for, think about it like being like a timekeeper, your brain's memory bank, so to speak. And instead of distinguishing clearly the past from the future, it makes danger feel like right now. So think about it. Setting a goal for 6 months from now, that can feel impossible. And if it does for you, a big reason could be because this is how your brain is responding. It's too busy focused on yesterday, on the past, on taking care of the threat or the situations that are needed right now. There's not enough energy to be able to even think about 6 months from now. That's not a priority. My priority is getting through today because of what's happened in the past, because of the things that are screaming in my face. Hey, you've got to pay the bills. Hey, you've got to figure out work. Hey, you've got to take care of your family. Hey, you've got to go to school. Hey, you've got to... There's so much coming at you today that for somebody to even ask you, hey, what are you planning on doing in the next year? What are your goals? To get through today, and that's just reality for a lot of us. Let's talk about your nervous system's response. So I'm sure most of you have heard of fight, flight, freeze, fawn responses, right? And if you haven't, they're essentially how your body responds to different outputs. So essentially, if we're looking at freeze, it's like trying to hit the gas pedal when your emergency brake is on. You can hit it all you want. It's not going anywhere. And so you're just going to end up exhausting yourself trying to go somewhere with the emergency brake on. Not gonna work. So then why do we say, oh, I'm so lazy. I just need to get up and go. I just need to set a goal. I just need to achieve this. I just need to. Your body is literally on when it comes to emergency brake. Your emergency brake in your system is on. Why are you forcing yourself to move when your emergency brake is on? And obviously, I'm trying to simplify this to make it more relatable so that you can really understand that it goes way deeper than that. Trauma, even if you may not term what you've experienced as trauma, you'd be surprised. And even though we've done so many years and there's great researchers out there that have studied trauma, we still don't know the depths of trauma. And so for you to say that that's not a possibility, you're ruling out a big part. So I'm making this video so that you can actually consider it. And everybody's situation is different. So it may not be trauma for you. But if you're watching this, it's because you know it's more than just being lazy. You know it's something deeper than that. It might be trauma. It might be your brain and your body actively in survival mode. And we have to take a look at that. So let's jump into answering the question of why trauma locks the brain specifically when it comes to motivation. Well, for starters, motivation requires a sense of safety. So for you to even plan ahead, your brain needs to feel safe enough to do so. So think about it this way. The future in your mind equals danger, or it equals uncertainty. And this, in turn, it makes setting any goals feel threatening. Your brain sees survival, getting through today, as the only goal worth chasing after. Another reason why trauma blocks specifically motivation, because it completely takes over our dopamine levels. What's dopamine? In simple terms, dopamine is the motivation, the reward chemical, the good feeling you get maybe after going to the gym, even though you were tired and exhausted before the gym and you left and you're like, man, I feel great. I'm so glad I did this. That's an example of how dopamine impacts us. And dopamine, usually it drives us towards future planning, towards goals, towards motivation. But what trauma does is it shifts the dopamine levels to focus on today, on getting through right now. So it focuses more on short-term goals, short-term behaviors. And short-term behaviors are staying alert, staying hypervigilant, avoiding taking too many risks, and self-protection. Self-preservation. So if you've ever heard of delayed gratification, which is essentially you get the thing, the prize, at the end or after you wait on something, that's delayed gratification. When you can wait and go to school for years and years and work really hard and pay a lot of money and spend time and say no to plans and things for the delayed gratification of that degree, that diploma, or when you can apply to job after job after job, to interview after interview after interview in the hopes of getting the call and saying you've got the job. That's delayed gratification. If you're finding that you struggle with this, even in short term, delayed gratification, maybe a goal 3 months from now, that's your form of delayed gratification and you still can't manage to meet that goal. It's not because you're lazy. It's because your brain literally is rerouting your dopamine levels to only focus on short term, and I mean short term planning, not long term. Hypervigilance, that's something that we've talked about a little bit. Hypervigilance is being hyper aware, hyper focused on what's around you and constantly having to scan for potential threats or potential danger around you. That's exhausting, not only mentally, but physically, emotionally, spiritually even. But when you're constantly doing this and this is happening in your brain, you can understand then why you may wake up after sleeping 8+ hours still feeling drained, feeling like you've ran a marathon and a half and you've been sleeping. The last reason is because there's a fear of failure, but also a fear of success. And if you've experienced this, you know exactly what I'm referring to. And trauma teaches our brain that standing out, that's a potential for danger. So have you ever had a moment where you think, okay, well, if I do good on this, will they judge me? Will they think differently of me? What if I fail? Will that prove that, see, she doesn't know what she's doing? He's worthless. He doesn't even know. And saying that out loud, it sounds so harsh, but if we're honest, how many of us right now talk to ourselves that harshly, or maybe even more, on a daily basis? So much so that you're comfortable with it. So in order to avoid the fear of failure and the fear of success, the brain, your mind, your body, it goes back to freeze. It goes back to, I'm just not going to do anything. Either option is too threatening, is too scary. I'm just going to stay here for now. So now that we have a clearer picture of what's going on internally within our minds, within our bodies, for us, that stops and blocks our motivation. Now let's talk about ways that you can actually work on little by little to increase that motivation in a way that's authentic to you. And I want you to comment down below if you've tried any of these, if it's worked before, if it hasn't worked, what has worked for you. Let me know in the comments below. So let's get started. Tip number 1. I want you to set the smallest goals you can think of. The smallest. If you set the goal and you're like, this is stupid, this is dumb, why would I? That's the goal. I want it to be so small that you're like, okay, well, this is easy. I can do this. If your goal for the day is just, I'm going to drink enough water, that's it. If your goal is even smaller than that, and it's, I'm going to drink 1 bottle of water today because I don't drink water at all. Perfect. If your goal for today is, I'm just going to shower. Perfect. If your goal is, I'm actually just going to brush my teeth. Perfect. That's how small and even smaller I want your goals to be. What happens is that when you set small goals and achieve them, it releases some of that dopamine that we want, that feel good hormone that lets you know, okay, this is good. You did something good. And if you set a goal today and you achieve it, great. Set a different goal 2 days from then. Don't be the type that says, okay, I set a small goal today. I got to set one tomorrow. Nope, you're doing too much. Stop, bring it back. Remember my voice in your head saying, bring it back. 1 small goal for today. That's it. The next is I want you to change your environment when you start to plan things. So for instance, if you're going to sit down and, your goal for today that you had to get done is paying some bills or working on one of your homework assignments, fine. Don't just sit there and do it. I want you to set the mood, set the vibe. Light a candle that you love how that candle smells, or play some calming music or your favorite song in the background that just always helps to get you through. I want you to make your environment safe. I want you to make your environment calming as you start to do those things, because then your brain, what happens is it starts to associate planning or doing tasks with safety, with calmness, with this is not chaotic. This may feel like a lot, but my environment is okay. And remember, we're doing this in small ways because I want it to be easy and simple enough for you to want to continue to do. Number 3, if you've done 1 and 2 and you're like, okay, I'm ready for a little something. I'm ready for a little something more. Then number 3 is I want you to use external motivations. Have an accountability partner, support groups in the areas that you're struggling with. Or if you're not ready for that, use an app. There's an app for everything. Use an app for what you're focused on. If your focus is on remembering tasks, find an app that's going to help you with that. And why this is helpful is because when your prefrontal cortex is sort of sidelined, remember how we were talking about the amygdala is overactive and hyperactive, your prefrontal cortex sort of takes a backseat. Well, when you do this, your prefrontal cortex is not really active. When you use external things to help you, it sort of mitigates that part of your brain that's not active. And it helps. This is why some people, they swear by to-do lists. This is why some people, they don't like the to-do list, but they'd rather have a notification on their phone of, hey, remember to drink enough water. Everybody's different. You have to find what works for you. But you don't have to do everything on your own. You can outsource certain things to help. And the last tip, and probably the most important, is that I want you to see rest as refuel. A lot of us see downtime, rest as a negative thing. Well, you have the time now, you should be doing something with it. I want you to, as much as you can, stop seeing it that way and instead tell yourself, you know what? Actually, this downtime is exactly what I need to give my brain a rest. I deserve to have time for myself. I deserve to just relax. I deserve to sleep. If not, my brain cannot function at the capacity that it needs to the next day. I want you to talk to yourself in that way because, for instance, if you were the type of person who grew up in a home where if you even sat down for a minute, you know where I'm going with this.
What are you doing? How come you're not helping? Oh, if you have enough time to sit there, you have enough time to do the dishes, you have enough time to clean the house.
You get what I'm saying. For those that get it, get it. A lot of times that alone is why in the future as grown adults, we could be sitting on the couch and still thinking about 30 things that we should be doing. Try to refocus your mind on the task at hand. and understanding that refuel, rest is important. No, is essential to your brain health, your inner health, and your emotional health, and your well-being overall. Make it a priority. If motivation feels impossible after experiencing trauma, it's not because you're lazy. It's because trauma literally rewires your entire brain, your mechanisms, your hormones, your nervous system, and it's up to you now to then work on all of that. And that is not an easy task. If anybody has not told you that, I'm telling you. That means shifting the way your brain works, your central nervous system, learning how to calm it down, getting your hormones back in check and in order, which is already a feat of its own. But being in that state of hypervigilance and hyper survival mode does not have to be your future. You can, in small ways, work on understanding, okay, this is where I'm at, but what can I do about it in small, consistent ways over time? So let me know in the comments below which step you're going to try first, what things have actually worked for you. Help each other in the comments, give each other encouragement to keep going, because experiencing trauma and then working on yourself and getting out of that traumatic state and out of that survival mode, again, is no easy task, but it is worth it. Thank you so much for being here. If you have any questions, leave them down below. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and I will catch you in the next video. Take care.